Well, thank you all. My name is Michael Martinez. I'm the local leader for EcoStruxure Foxborough DCS. And I want to welcome you to Schneider Electric's Foxborough office for Innovation Days 2023 for Process Control. It's been a long time since we've been together, so we got a lot to catch up on in this first 30 minutes. We got like 4 years of catch up to do, but I'll try to be quick. How many of you were with me and the rest of us in Austin back in 2019? All right, that's actually part of the test too. So I actually wanted to ask first, can you all raise your hand without hitting the person next to you? No? Yeah? Maybe. Just wanted to make sure there was enough room for us to do that. It's been a long time since 2019. I think a lot of things are going on in terms of what's been going on around the world. It was interesting, when we were together in 2019, we had a speaker that came, and I don't know if you guys remember this, but his key message was, we're either going to react to the future or we're going to create the future. Little did we know that a few months after that session, we would all be reacting to the future, right? COVID came and we didn't know what we were going to do, whether we were going to shut down, whether we were going to continue working. A lot of us being able to work remotely was a whole new idea. But we changed quickly, we adapted very quickly. And we had to keep meeting the needs of not only the businesses that we had, our families, but also of our customers. I mean, we've all probably struggled over the last few years to continue to provide our goods, services, products to our customers, to our end users. And we felt that as well from a supply chain perspective. We're going to have a session on supply chain. I know many of you probably have questions about that, so we'll have a separate session where we'll kind of share with you where we're at, and you guys will have the opportunity to ask questions. But a lot's changed. If I think about now going back to 2019, or maybe even before 2018, I think about how many of you, since 2018, have for the first time experienced a Team or Zoom call? Yeah, everything's on Teams or Zoom now, right? It's a whole new way of interacting with one another. How many webinars did you sit through? Probably 10, 20, 50, 100 in the last 3 years? It's how we've learned to interact with each other. But at the same time, if I think about over the last 3 years, how we use technology, it's incredible, right? I can think of a couple apps. You probably can think of a couple apps or a couple of pieces of technology that you bought in the last 3 to 5 years that you can't live without anymore. They've become a part of how you do your daily life, of how you work, how you interact with your family and friends. So technology advances, right? And it's time to catch up. Foxborough has been around. I kind of cringed a little bit when we put this slide together, because I remember the systems when they came out in 1987. The first Foxborough system coming out in 1987, 35 years. How many of you had one of those Gen 1 with the CP10s, COM10s? How many of you had those in your sites? I'm afraid to ask the next question, but how many of you still have them in your sites? Okay, there's one honest person in the room, but you know, we can talk later. But yeah, that technology is very robust. It was really good, and is really good, I should say, at continuing to run processes. I mean, that's been it's a double-edged sword of providing a product with that level of reliability and availability that allows you to continue to run your processes. And you'll see throughout the rest of these next couple of days that we continue to add features, functions, capabilities to that existing system. We'll have breakout sessions. Thad will be up shortly after me, after we take a break, to share with you our roadmap and some of the things that we're working on Foxborough DCS as you know it today. But as I mentioned, over the last 3 years, so many things have changed from supply chain, our ability to get components, to build systems, our ability, we've learned a lot geopolitically about dependencies on different countries and being able to get raw materials, whether it's for manufacturing of our products or manufacturing of your products. It's been a struggle. And so one of the things that I think it's time that we do, and I'm really excited that you're here, is because we want to start thinking about how do we reimagine automation. So I want to set the context for this because it becomes very important as we look at and participate in the sessions over the next few days. So I'll use the analogy of music. So I'm going to date myself here, but When I grew up, if I wanted to listen to my favorite songs, I had to beg my parents to get in the car and drive me to a record store, and then I had to beg them to buy me the album that had the song that I wanted to listen to. And then I had to get back home, and then I had to hope I had access to the record player because it was in the living room, and I never got to listen to my music. Right? I have stacks and stacks of albums with 1 or 2 songs that are my favorite songs. And I had to be right in front of that record player with a sound system to be able to enjoy it. So I had to make sure they were gone, or I finally got them to give me headphones. But I had to be right there. That's how I had to experience my favorite songs. Today, if you think about it, I can purchase just my favorite songs. I can hear my favorite song anytime I want to on any electronic device. We've decoupled that physical media of the record or the sound system to the digital music, to the streaming, to the cloud, to the device, to the laptop, to the phone. Now we can experience our music in entirely new ways. You know, there's no way I could have taken that record player with me out while I was going for a jog or for a walk or in my car. I couldn't have listened to it on my computer. I didn't have a computer back then, obviously. But there was no way for me to have that experience. But so today, when I say reimagine automation, we really want to take decoupling hardware from software to that same extreme. To say, think differently about how you automate your processes. One of the things that I've recognized, and you've probably all recognized throughout the last couple of decades, the last 35 years of the Foxborough system, is that we've always put hardware first. So when we think about the projects that we're doing, it's always a question of we have to pick the technology vendor. Is this a PLC job, or is this a DCS job, or is this a machine solution, just a high-speed application? And we've had to select technology, and that's a little backwards, right? Because technology should be serving us. It should allow us to do the things that we need to do in our processes to achieve the outcomes that we're after for our customers, for our products and for our services. And so when I say reimagine automation, think differently. And I would say in the conversations that you have with others as you're in the Innovation Hub, experiencing some of the things that I'll share with you here in just a second, or when you're in the breakout sessions, challenge us, push us, ask questions, get engaged. We have an Ask R&D session if you really want to get super technical about the products that we're manufacturing and what we're actually building. So please engage. As we start to talk about reimagining automation, there's really 3 characteristics I want to talk about, and I want you to think about as you think about how we can do automation differently. And those 3 things are open, characteristics are open, democratized, and empowering. So let me explain what those mean. So first of all, we did have Omdia did a survey recently where they were asking automation customers more about digital transformation, how they use technology, and what were some of the things that they would expect as they make investments in automation technologies into the future. 80% of the industries that were actually asked said that they consider open and interoperability as an important capability, meaning that you have other systems there that you need to share this information with, that you don't need everything to be locked into one proprietary format that's inaccessible to all the other systems. So what we're really looking at is open systems, right? So what is open? What do I mean when I say open? Favorite part, breaking vendor lock. How many of you, no, I probably shouldn't ask the question, but how many of you have experienced delayed lead times or have waited on stuff because of supply chain issues? One thing or another, even in personal life, right? It doesn't have to be from us. Everybody's impacted by it, right? At the same time, how many of you, this is speaking more to the proprietary systems, had access to something that was a computer, that was a switch, that was a television, whatever it may be, that wasn't exactly what you needed, but could have done the job? You could have gotten your hands on something that had that capacity. So really what we're talking about here is go back to that music analogy. I just need something to play that song on. I don't need it to be locked down and specific. And I also need it to be interoperable, because I have other pieces of equipment and other systems there that I needed to work with on a regular basis. So when we talk about open, there's really 3 different ways I like to think about open, and these models you'll probably recognize. I think the first model of open that you might see out in the industry today is the model that says everything can talk to everything else. It's let's all speak a common language, right? It is the OPC-UA of industry, right? It says if we all just speak OPC-UA, we have OPC-UA databases, then regardless of all of the systems that we have underneath and the challenges of configuring those systems and maintaining the licenses and getting the proprietary hardware, that's open, okay? That's one definition. The other definition is that as long as you buy anything from me, it works with everything from me, right? That's another definition of open, but it's not the definition of open that Schneider Electric sees, right? Our definition of open is let's separate the software from the hardware. Let's decouple hardware and software so that we can take our favorite songs with us. We can reimagine, we can experience automation in a new way, that it's portable, that it's not coupled to hardware, so it's not hardware dependent in the sense that as I want to change out hardware because of the hardware lifecycle, I'm not compelled to reconfigure, rebuild my entire application. Right? It's a different way of thinking about open. The next thing is democratized. So what do I mean when I say democratized? It's more about accessibility. Today, if we think about the systems that we have, and I've met many of you in the roles that I've had, whether it was from delivery, startup and commissioning, consulting, cybersecurity, alarm management. I've worn a lot of hats since coming. But the thing is that part of the value that I've always brought was my knowledge of an ancient language. Right? Many of us have become experts in Foxborough. Everybody here knows what a compound block parameter is, right? That's not normal human speak. I don't know how many of you have ever tried to have that conversation like with your children or with your family. What's a compound block parameter? They have no idea. It's a language that we speak, that we must speak in order to be able to get our systems to do the things that we want them to do. But when we talk about democratize, what we've actually done when we go to these locked-in proprietary systems is we've limited the ability for experts to actually add value to our processes, to start to contribute as soon as they come in. So what ends up happening is they must be trained in the ancient ways before they can add value, right? And you're probably struggling with the same that most industries are struggling, is how do we bring in that next generation of automation professionals? How do we attract them when we have these tools that are old? So really what we're talking about democratizing is let's build applications and configuration interfaces that are based on industry standards, that are accessible to everyone. Through partnerships with like universalautomation.org, extend that arm out to educational institutions so that we're actually starting to educate the next generation of automation professionals on this new way of thinking, so that it is accessible, and so that the skills that they come out of the university with are skills that they can immediately apply with their area of expertise to our processes. So it makes it very easy for them to add value right out the door. The next thing is empowers collaboration. It's empowering. And what do I mean by this? This is more getting back to that, starting with the process first. As I said earlier, today when we think about automation systems, or even when I walk into a customer site, what's the first thing I want to see? I want to see the control room. I want to see where the controllers are. I want to see the electrical room. And that's because it's so hardware focused, so hardware focused. But as we move into the future, we need to change that conversation. And I say we because this is going to take effort on both of our parts. Right? We've learned how to communicate with one another. We've said, here's how you buy our system. Let me send you my specification sheet, and you put this specification sheet in your RFQ, and you buy my stuff. But we have to change that conversation because you really don't want that specification. You want to make something. You want to provide a service. You want to provide a good. You want to provide a product to your customer. And we want to partner with you in that. And I say we, I'm talking about the broader Schneider Electric, not just process control. And so I think if we start to have those conversations about what is the process, who are your customers, how can we work together to bring the bigger Schneider Electric and technologies together in a way that can allow you to achieve what you're after, whether that's production goals, whether that's sustainability goals or ESG goals, you name it. All of that's achievable when we work together and don't just transact. And so the idea here is, how do we move forward What is the future? I think this is the term I like to call responsible profitability. So this is when we go beyond. Before me, how many of you guys remember Dr. Peter Martin? Yeah? So you remember Peter Martin used to talk about making the automation platform the profit engine of your business, right? I completely agree with that. But I think today, especially looking back on the last 3 years, people's values have changed. I mean, I don't know if you felt it, but I felt it in terms of how we make decisions. What do we want to do with our time? How do we want to spend our lives? And even to the extent where getting people even back into the office can be a challenge, right? Because we've learned we don't have to be in the office. Responsible profitability is about how do we bring those other metrics of success and incorporate that into our automation strategies. Today, we might need things like artificial intelligence or machine learning or integration of different types of systems. That level of integration, that level of adoption of new technology, that level of bringing new people into the workforce, it's going to require us to put values first. I mean, it's one of those kind of things where I don't know your companies, but it's Schneider Electric saying we are sustainability. We live, breathe, it's in our DNA for everybody who's an employee of Schneider Electric. So we're starting to see companies say, yes, we're going to be profitable, but we're also going to be about something else. And this is responsible profitability. How do we start to leverage technology to enable us to achieve those outcomes beyond profitability, which we all know we must be profitable as businesses? How do we do more? Which is going to require more technology, which is going to require greater integration, but it's also going to require us to reimagine automation, to think differently about our expectations. It's not just about moving that valve, but about why we move that valve, about how we move that valve. What is the force? What is the source of energy that we use to move that valve? Electrification's happening, right? Getting away from using things that might not be good for our environment. So where does this bring us? So when we think about EcoStruxure Automation Expert, that software, single integrated development environment from Schneider Electric, what this actually allows us to do is to make EcoStruxure a reality. So many of you have probably seen either a salesperson or a technical salesperson or even me or one of my team present this slide or a similar slide showing EcoStruxure. And we would always get questioned, what is that? What is EcoStruxure? EcoStruxure, for me, becomes real with EcoStruxure Automation Expert. Why? Because when we would originally talk about this, customers would ask me, does that mean that I can buy any of these products and any of these software applications from Schneider Electric and they all work together? Kind of buy it as a graphic, right? It kind of looks that way. Well, that was the vision. That vision is becoming a reality today with EcoStruxure Automation Expert. One single integrated development environment that allows us to create applications that can run on all of these devices. So EcoStruxure is a reality. We went even further. UniversalAutomation.org, third-party nonprofit organization, no longer part of Schneider Electric. They own the runtime that is the Universal Automation, or formerly the Eco runtime, that allows those applications to be built, to run on different types of hardware, to allow you to think in new paradigms about both. It's going to require a complete reimagining of not only how you think about automation, but how we work together, right? It's going to be a challenge. But I honestly believe that in order for us to meet the expectations that industry and people have of us moving into the future, we can't scale what we have today. We can't do more of what we do today. This is where we run into these boundaries, as we start to talk about sustainability and availability of resources. We have to think differently. We have to reimagine automation. And so universalautomation.org is a third-party organization, nonprofit organization that is composed of not only companies like ourselves, but of people like you, of users of technology. And we actually, sales pitch here, we really would love for you to join universalautomation.org to provide your voice into that. Because this is what we believe is creating that platform of the future, that runtime of the future that's going to allow us to create products that can all be incorporated. You can see some of these products at the Innovation Hub when you go out there. So, like I said, please ask plenty of questions. So, reimagine automation. It's a really big idea. And I know it's a really big ask to say, take everything that you've been doing for myself for the last 35, 40 years and think differently. Don't think of it the way that we have in the past. Work differently together with your vendors, with us, with Schneider Electric. Ask for things differently. Ask us to help solve your problems, because if you just ask for technology, guess what? You will just get technology. And we have to change that conversation. This will allow us to do it. I want to tell you a story about one customer, because I think it's relevant here as we start to talk about reimagining automation and specifically kind of how we look forward in this future world of universal automation and EcoStruxure automation experts. So this customer, Green, they did a presentation at an ARC conference a couple of years back. So they heard about Automation Expert, because Automation Expert has actually been out since 2020. So this is not a new technology. We just continue to evolve it, add new capabilities, and you'll learn more in Domenico's session on where we are today with Automation Expert and how you can leverage it. But they gave a presentation a couple of years back on how they were using the concepts of universal automation and EcoStruxure Automation Expert. So they had a plastics recycling facility, and they said, we believe that this is the future, that plastics recycling is an industry of the future. We want to build this on new technology. So let's give this a chance. Let's see if Automation Expert, this universal automation concept, a chance. So they went throughout, they did the entire project the way they would normally do a project. And then they came back at the end of that and gave a lot of feedback to Schneider Electric and the rest of the team about the success of that project and how it actually went. And there were some interesting findings. And the thing that was most interesting to me was that they said, in their own words, they missed on the opportunity to optimize the program because while they used new technology, they executed that technology with old processes and old ways of thinking. The example is what they did was they traditionally think of this front end of the plant, so everything from, so if you think about Automation Expert and process control, it's everything from when raw materials come into the facility, how you process that, to your process control, all the way to your final product and distribution. All of this is part of your process. As your raw materials come in, whether now is really to the future, electricity will become more and more of a raw material. We'll talk more about that. That's why I'm coming with EcoStruxure Power and Process. But you want to be able to follow your process from beginning to end. Today we think about it, well, this is a PLC done. This should be done on PLC, right? Then I need a gateway. I need another point of failure. Right? That point of failure needs to talk to this thing over here, so there's got to be a driver. And I have to map points from here to here. Then this is going to do this, and this is going to have software packages, and it might share data with that one, but it not, maybe at the historian level, maybe not. We'll see. I'm going to run this whole process, and maybe there's a safety system. Maybe I need to do something here, and then I'm going to get over here, and I'm going to finish, and I'm going to put another PLC or a high-speed piece of machinery that's going to package and distribute my product. And so this is how they thought about automation. They looked at the process based on hardware, not based on their actual process. And so they missed, even though they had the opportunity to create one application that could have been deployed on the appropriate types of hardware, depending upon availability or where it needed to be or where the I/O was. They said, let's just engineer it the way we always do. And they missed out on that opportunity. So you had two Automation Expert applications mapping things to one another. No read, right? Same thing on the other end. We have to think differently about how we automate processes, how we think about process control, and get our heads out of thinking hardware first. Right? So that's my ask of you today and of the next couple of days, is as you go through each of the sessions, ask yourself, how can we do things differently in order to achieve the outcomes that our companies are after, leveraging this technology or not? And challenge us, push back. If you see something that's not going to help you or that could potentially help you just a little bit differently, I have an entire group of offer managers that are here, and most of them will be leading different sessions. And that's their role in life, is to listen so that we develop products that enable you to achieve what you need to from a process automation perspective. So please speak back. Please give us feedback. Please participate in all of the sessions.